So you started out working as a web developer before you started working in SEO and eventually partnering with James Dooley, who's another SEO who I've interviewed on the channel already. You've ended up running a portfolio of casino websites and various other industry projects with James and various other people in the industry like Carl Hudson. These days, you're mostly doing experiments in the SERP, winding up white hats on social media, and developing your investment portfolio than developing client sites anymore. You've spoken at about half a dozen different events now with Changwei SEO coming up for the next couple of weeks, and you've recently started sharing your own thoughts on website recovery and the right way to approach SEO on YouTube. So would you like to introduce yourself, Kasra Dash, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for having me on, Charles. Yeah, what a journey it has been. I feel like you've probably seen me grow like in the ranks and stuff like that over the years. Like I remember meeting you at Search Birmingham. I think that was before COVID, right?
Yeah, 2018, I think.
Yeah, 2018 until now. I still like whenever someone asks me like, oh, how long have you been in SEO and stuff, I still say, oh, I've only been doing it for like 2 or 3 years. And now I'm looking at it and I'm like, that's not the case now. It's like 5, 6, 7 years now. So yeah, it has been a long journey. And it's not been a full on like successful one every like year on year. Like I feel like there's a lot of SEOs that make out as if like they're crushing it every day and every year and stuff. It's definitely not the case. It has come with a lot of failures, but it's all about bouncing back.
I've suffered some losses myself, trust me, in the SEO world. And there's always the ups and downs, and there's always the volatility that comes with the SEO industry. And I think people are going to really see that over the next few years. But I wanted to just ask you, before we get into kind of more the nitty gritty of SEO and things, because you're coming from a web development background, what do you think SEOs could take into consideration or could take from that web development background that they could learn and implement as SEOs, right? So what could normal SEOs learn from devs that they don't normally consider?
Yeah, we've had this conversation quite a few times actually. And I think the biggest thing is just knowing how to code a website cleanly. Like there's so many developers that use 10 million plugins on the website. And obviously we both know a plugin can cause to your website being hacked. Like you look at any one of my websites now, they've got like 1 or 2 plugins, custom theme, custom plugins. The plugins and themes isn't on a public depository that anyone can like essentially access. So for example, if you've got Yoast on your website, think of how many other websites have that. Now, if there's a vulnerability on that plugin, it's very easy to hack into 7 million plugins and destroy a website or place links or do whatever else. So I feel like that's probably the most important thing. And then just knowing how to scale correctly at like a website. So again, I look at some of these themes that you've got access to, and some of them are on Envato Elements or whatever else, or Theme Forest and stuff. And you can't scale a website. Like, for example, some of our gambling affiliate sites, you might need to go into a Bet365 offer and change it across 350 pages. Now, you don't want to be doing that manually. You need to think outside the box as a web developer and being like, right, okay, I need to update it in one location and auto publishes to 350 different places. So yeah, scaling's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are going to probably associate the fact that you're a web developer with probably being better at technical and on-page. So before I get into the link building side, which I actually think that you're potentially better at than the on-page and technical side, what are some key areas that you think that most people overlook when they are optimizing their on-page?
So some key areas, I feel like people are just they're just driven by a SEO score. So I know that Rank Math has it. I know that Yoast has it. Phrase has it. All of these tools have it. But again, these are all third-party metrics. So unless they are Google Search Console, for example, or if it's data that Google's actually given you, it is a made-up metric. Now, that's not to say that it's a completely zero-value metric, because it's not. Like, they still provide a really good value. But just because you have 100 Surfer score or 100 Rank Math score doesn't mean that you're going to rank position 1. I feel like that adding in like LSIs and stuff like that still works to this day. And then also doing like internal links. There's so many websites that I've seen lately that have been hit and their internal linking just sucks. Like internally linking to just pages that aren't relevant to that page, not internally linking to other pages in the silo, just basic SEO 101. So yeah, just get your internal links done right.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few people that are like, why isn't my site ranking? And then I look at their website and all of their internal links are linking to category pages. But those category pages don't actually rank for anything, don't have any content, don't. They're like, oh, but the link juice is going to pass down the funnel. And I'm like, that's not how it really works.
Yeah.
Like you need to be sending the in-between pages, right?
One other thing that I've noticed, and I think we've again had this discussion before, is like, if you're building links to, like, let's say, for example, a blog page, right? And that blog page isn't internally linking to any of your money pages, it's almost a wasted link when you're doing like guest posts and niche edits and stuff. So like, equally as important as it is to acquiring backlinks, it's also as important to doing like internal links from like all your like blog pages up to your money pages. But yeah, like, again, so many people don't do that, and then they go on Twitter and they say, oh, link building doesn't work. It's like, no, your website's probably not ready for links.
And you're probably not very good at link building anyway, to be honest. Exactly. Like, kind of around the on-page and content and stuff, I know that you do quite a bit of work with Corey as well. How are you researching your content clusters based on the keyword and entity research that's kind of required at the moment?
So we use a lot of tools. Again, Corey is like an absolute freak of nature. Like, you speak to him and he's just starting rattling off different Google documents and PDFs, and you just sat there like, what? But we use a lot of tools. We don't solely rely on one tool. Like a few tools, obviously you use this as well. Market Muse, probably my go-to tool at the minute. And then we also have other tools such as Keyword Cupid. Keyword Cupid, again, brilliant tool. Sometimes it blows my mind on how it does the agglomerative clustering and stuff. So it just weighs different keywords, which a lot of other tools don't do that. So big up to Leo for setting up that tool. And when it comes to like topical clustering and stuff like that, like a really good strategy is on the gambling sites. If there's a Wikipedia page for a certain topic or a keyword, we will build that article on our website. So for example, if there is a Wikipedia page to do with iPhones, we'll build an iPhones page, and if there's one for iPhone 4S, we'll build an iPhone 4S page. So we go down that route. Again, it very much depends on the niche as well. So like, one thing that a lot of SEOs don't talk about enough, I feel, is something that works in Amazon affiliate might not work in gambling. Something that works in gambling might not work in porn. Something that works in porn might not work in local. So everything's slightly a bit different. Like, we've got different teams when it comes to like writing content for finance or doing clustering for finance, as opposed to the gambling guys.
Let's get away from the on-page and the content and stuff and onto the stuff that people really care about, which is links. What do you think are the most effective link types or the most effective link building strategies right now?
So I think the video that you done explains it all. So watch that video, guys. Guest posts definitely still work. Our niche edits definitely still work. Now, there's ways that I structure these types of links. So guest posts, I would do to like a money page, because obviously you can pick the content. It's super bespoke. So if you're trying to rank for best running shoes for men with flat feet, you can get a guest post talking about that, or very similar to that article. Then it can link to your money page. With niche edits, I typically like to build them to home pages and hub pages. So any category pages, anything that's got like a lot of links, so it just trickles down the power to any other money pages or any blogs that you might have. And then tier twos, I feel like nobody's talking about tier twos, and it's so vital at the minute, because everyone essentially for the past 12 months went and pumped loads of AI content, right? So then the page rank of every website got like diminished in a sense. So if your page is on, for example, Forbes, and it's 60,000 pages, 60,000 page website, and now it's 120,000 page website because they've scaled loads of content, your page rank's been halved essentially. So build tier twos to all your links, and you'll do very well. I don't know if you saw my latest tweet, or one of my latest tweets. It was on a gambling site in the UK. Like it was like 15 guest posts and like 10 niche edits or something, and a load of tier twos. Like link building hasn't changed over the years. The threshold's gotten a little bit harder, but not everybody's doing the tier twos. Not everybody just seems to be cutting corners when it comes to link building. I don't know what your thoughts are. And then again, this is a bit of a controversial one. I don't like Harrow. I don't know what your thoughts are on it, but a lot of people, when I speak to them, they're like, yeah, I've done EEAT. I've got 15 Harrow links. It's like, well, that's not really Harrow. Let's be honest. It's essentially a glorified niche edit. So just doing all the entity stacking, as you call it, and setting up the correct foundations.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you what your process was for building links to a new website, but I think you kind of answered the question there, basically, which is building the foundational links and things, right? So I want to ask you the question that I think I've had a lot of people at home ask me and at work ask me and things about digital PR, basically, and how every agency on the planet seems to be charging like $10,000 or $15,000 or $25,000 a month for digital PR. And site owners and business owners have got it in their head that to carry out said digital PR now, you have to be paying something like those kind of astronomical fees, right? Even to run smaller campaigns, it's like $5,000, £5,000, right, per month. So how can people at home, without it going to that kind of extreme levels of cost, it can still cost a couple $100, maybe $1,000 a month, but how can people at home run their own digital PR campaigns?
With a lot of time and effort. Like, I know that people say that digital PRs, I don't know, like $5,000 or $6,000 for like, I don't know, 6 links. So you're spending $1,000 a link. Now, what you can do is go on websites like Fiverr, like Legit, and there are guys out there that will go on Muckrack and all the other PR platforms. You tell them an industry. So let's say, for example, you want to get a load of links for fitness, and they will get you journalists on fitness, and then you can just pitch them the idea. From my experience, I would probably do I would probably spend more time on the actual idea than actually sending out the emails. Sending out the emails is the easy part. Coming up with the idea. So, for example, we might come up with an idea saying Charles Floats just ran 700 miles in 7 days. Figure out how he's done it here, and it might be like a really nice infographic. You ate loads of bananas. You had your peanuts before your run. Right? It was this magic formula that you had, and it made you run 700 miles. Journalists will be like, what the hell? How's he done this? I want to publish this. They'll obviously do a bit of fact finding. You can't go and just publish a load of... You can't go and publish a load of lies. But a lot of the time, like it all comes down to the story. And again, like there's obviously guys like Ferry that does, like, obviously you've seen his videos. He's a madman, but it all comes down to the stories I found. And then again, in some cases, like the stories that you just don't think will perform will be the ones that end up getting you a load of links as well. So I would probably spend a load of time on actually doing like the infographic or the actual pitch, as opposed to just getting the emails, sending out the 200 emails. Like I could do that in an afternoon. Do you know what I mean? You just set it up on Lemlist or whatever, and you just blast it out. And also, one other thing is the subject line as well. So, like, obviously, journalists probably get hundreds of emails a day. Split testing your subject line is probably really important as well.
Yeah, I agree. I've actually found some really insane results if you try and put emojis in the subject line. If you try and, especially like money bags and things like that, people actually click on it quite a lot more. It's quite funny. As soon as you kind of shine that carrot in front of people's faces, they kind of try and chase it, right? So in terms of links being probably one of the most effective things, if not the most effective kind of ranking signal, despite what Google and a lot of people have been saying recently in the SEO industry. Would you say that most of the recovery work that you've been doing, so that's like penalty and algorithmic recovery work, would you say that most of that has been link-based, or is it going to be more on-page and things as well?
So before the helpful content update, it was all links based. Like we were still seeing manual action penalties, right? Like you speak to a lot of SEOs and they're like, manual actions? That's not a thing. I've not seen one in years. Like I think the last one that I saw was 2 weeks ago. And we consistently see those. it's become a weird time in the industry, you know. So after the helpful content update, we were like, it was I would probably say it was 85% links based, 75% links based penalties that we were seeing. There were a few things that we were seeing with the helpful content and stuff. Like a lot of websites we saw in the gambling space got hit in last year's helpful content update due to the fact that they had a load of pages that weren't getting any impressions, they weren't getting any clicks. So it was just pulling the website down. So if you think of it, a lot of the websites previously would have had like the results of Chelsea versus Arsenal back in like 2018. Nobody's searching that now. It's 2023. So you either had to archive that page or you had to delete that page or no index it. Just do something so Google's not wasting its crawl budget on that page. So we saw a lot of that. And I feel like in this helpful content update, they've tuned that up a little bit more. So they're like, right, okay. And instead of it being like, if 10% of your website is dead weight, penalize the entire site. It might now be if 25% of your website is dead weight, penalize the entire website, right? So we've seen a lot of those types scenarios, and we're still seeing like links based stuff. So there's a lot of websites that have been hit by both core algorithm updates. So the one this year and the one that was like 6 months ago or 5 months ago, whenever it was. If your website's been hit by both of the core algorithm updates, it's probably to do with EAT or links-based stuff. Like we've got a team that like looks at the websites before that we actually say, hey, it's definitely a disavow or it's definitely EAT, or it might be a combination of both. But yeah, there's still a lot of links-based penalties that we're seeing. Like I'd probably say like start of this year, we saw 18 manual actions, 18. Just in January and February, and we've still like every single month since we've still seen a manual action at least once a month. I'm still waiting for the one for November, but there will be one in November. It just happens.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I've definitely seen an uptick in the visits from RaterHub and all of those websites as well across kind of the portfolio. So I definitely think that Google's getting more busy. And I think that it's probably feeding into their ML and AI kind of training data and all that kind of stuff as well, right? So that if they just have a bunch of manual people clicking yes or no on buttons, then it can train the AI and eventually in what is good or not, right? It's that kind of process of if you have enough monkeys on typewriters that they'll eventually write Shakespeare, right?
Yeah. So this is interesting you say that, because I actually mentioned this, I think it was either on another podcast or last week in the office, and I said it's almost as it like, do you remember when Gear Hungry got hit and a load of other big Amazon affiliate sites got hit, right? All of them got like a manual action by RaterHub, right? It's almost as if they've automated that RaterHub visit. So in some cases now, I'm seeing websites that have been spanked minus 80% traffic, and it's like, this is definitely a RaterHub visit, but in referrals, it's not shown up as RaterHub. Just so everybody that's watching that might not know about RaterHub, by the way, if you go into acquisition, referrals, do like the past, like, I don't know, 2 years or whatever, and you search Rater or RaterHub, you'll see like there is a direct correlation between if RaterHub has visited your website and your website absolutely tanking, or in some cases absolutely going up if you've been doing things correctly, which a lot of people aren't when they've been hit by RaterHub. But yeah, it's essentially just a manual action. Google sends out manual raters to review your website. If you're missing EAT or if your website looks a bit suspect, you're probably going to get hit.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of people out there that need to probably step up their game and start putting the future proofing on now, rather than kind of waiting for these algorithm updates to hit and then being reactive rather than proactive to their kind of responses to these algorithm updates. And a lot of people know that they have problems, right? Like you speak to these people, they're like, oh yeah, I got hit. And then like, oh, well, I was going to do that later, or I should have done that. Yeah, well, I know about that. And like, well, if you add it all up together, all these things that you know you should have done caused you to drop. So just go ahead and focus on what the core stuff that you know works, and make sure that you can improve generally the baseline quality score of not only your entire website, but kind of your entire off-page signals as well, right?
Yeah, it's all about the 1% gains. Like people think like, how can I get to 100? And they just think there's a magic bullet that they can take. And it's like, no, just do Do your foundational links, do topical clustering, do all your content pieces, do your links, do your PR, do all of this, and it, like, you will eventually get results. It's not like you look at, I don't know, massive websites now like Forbes. They didn't just magically get to 100 million traffic or whatever they're on. They slowly built up over the years. Again, Forbes is massive. You might not ever reach Forbes size, but it's not just an overnight success.
Yeah, and there's definitely tons of examples of niche authorities that are nowhere near the size of Forbes, but have definitely built a moat around their business that is going to be very, very difficult for other companies to come in any sort of a short-term position, at least, to try and take away a significant chunk of their traffic or their revenue even. So I definitely think that people kind of overestimate what you'd actually need to build, especially if you are niching down to specific industries, right? That you could actually get away with doing certain things to a lesser degree and still build up that overall authority. And that there's certain activities that feed other activities, so that if you do work on really good content that can then build up and rank, that content can then naturally gain links, which feeds your authority, and et cetera, and that all just kind of goes on and compounds over time. And it's all about compounding, right? It's just about the kind of actions over time that kind of create even more assets, and they just build on top of each other. And I think that the profitability is still there. That's the main thing, right? Like if you can get that authority mode, or even if you can get a niche that's really, really good, you can publish pages that make you hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of dollars in ROI over the course of 12 months, right? So I still think that I still think a lot of people are underestimating the opportunities and kind of a bit too scared to go all in on certain things. And I think that they should be taking the risks now, because taking them in a year or 2 years is going to be significantly riskier than right now, right? So I appreciate you coming on. And is there anywhere people can kind of follow you online?
KasraDash.com, or on Twitter, it's Kasra_Dash, I think. Most controversial man on Twitter. So yeah.
That's a pretty bold title to claim, but I think you might be up there in the SEO industry for sure. All right, well, I appreciate you coming on, and please like, comment, and subscribe, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Cheers.